welcome to the First Slayer. My name's Richard Cleveland. That guy over there, that's Brian Baker. We're back. We're back on Thursday nights. Yes, we're back on Thursday nights for the summer at 7 p.m. Because our weekends are completely booked. Brian and I are both working 7 days a week right now.
Yep,
so,
no rest for the week, as they say, you know.
Well, I thought it was
you can tell, I mean, you're red, I'm red, you look sweaty, I look like Shemp.
See, I'm doing my hillbilly sleeveless shirt today. And my homeless, I haven't shaved in 6 months look.
That's okay. We like beards here in Canada. They somehow keep us cooler.
That's right. Welcome to everybody in our chat tonight. If you haven't already, give us a nice like. We really appreciate that. We've got lots to talk about tonight. We're going to give you kind of a quick update of what's been happening. There's a new episode coming out this week, and Brian is going to be doing that episode this week. So that'll be cool. I'm not doing it because my schedule is like I'm drowning. I think we both need interns. That's what we need.
Yeah,
paid
well,
or
I mean,
unpaid.
Unpaid. That's what an intern is. Unpaid.
No, they could be paid too.
They do it for the experience.
Yeah.
That's right.
Oh, you're one of them.
That's what I'm doing right now. Then. I don't get paid.
You get paid in other ways.
And it begins.
And it begins. All right, let's welcome everybody. So tonight we've got one question that came in through email. I know we've been gone for a while. It's just been very hectic getting our new operation up and running. Western 3D Services, which has kind of grown from what it originally was intended to be. We have now added 2 more types of 3D services. There are vinyl decals that you can get at our shop now at the Hidden Gem in Okotoks. You can also get laser engraving, and I wish I'd had a piece that we did today to bring down here to show you that you can get from us, and we are doing it all on demand. And we completed our very first customer order today. Yay!
Yay!
Ding, ding, ding.
So we're pretty happy about that. We are happy that the shop is people are starting to understand who we are and what we do.
It's like from our perspective, because everyone's asking how's the shop. The shop is very unique compared to everything else in there.
Yes.
I'll simply say that. Now, I knew what to kind of expect for vendors when we were first acquiring this space, but I figured, you know what? There might be a little closer crossover. But my goodness, I couldn't believe how much more rural design stuff was coming in, even with us as close to the city and as urbanized as Okotoks has become. So, a little bit of a surprise at first, I won't lie to you guys. But that being said, we took that first week, and because of the turnkey nature of all the 3D printing stuff and all the 3D services we are offering, we were able to rejig it to better accommodate the local market, if you will. So, it was a bit of an experiment. And as I said, I'm not anticipating us making any real money off this for the first while, or at all, depending on how the market is out here. But I am trying to fill a niche, and I'm kind of doing a bit for fun too. I mean, that's the whole point of 3D printing, and
that's right.
With the nature of us not knowing what the next few months was going to entail globally, it was a neat way of us getting out into the community without potentially violating some rules. And sure enough, all the rules here were lifted the day of opening. So
sure was.
So if you guys saw our live stream there, with the exception of Richard and I side by side, it was very uncomfortable for me for the first little bit, because I was like, I don't know if I feel comfortable hugging people again. It just felt weird. So there's been an adaptation, shall we say. And then the laser engraver that we're working with, that you may have seen the live stream of there, Richard's currently working on the review, but we've been really blown away by this thing. And it has just been almost a set it and forget it. But it's opened our eyes to a new possibility
Yes.
of 3D design, if you will. And we're going to kind of get more into that when we get to our review here.
Yes.
But these things do take time, and we are having customer orders coming in like crazy for this stuff. So we've been a little busy fulfilling customers at the same time.
Yes. I got to tell you, playing with the laser engraver, I haven't got it to cut yet, but I will. That's next week's project. But this week, we've got some new stuff that are coming out to our booth. We're going to have a whole new look this weekend. So if you're local to Calgary, Okotoks, Airdrie, somewhere around the area, Vulcan even, come on down to the Hidden Gem in Okotoks. Visit Brian and I. Share some laughs, get a look at the new look of our booth. We made some executive decisions on how we want it to look, because we kind of stand out like a sore thumb.
And then Richard left, and I redesigned it.
Well, I'm coming back, so we're going to finish the design. But no, at the end of the day, it's one of those things that's going to take time to kind of sort things out. But the vision I have for our little corner of the world there, I think is going to be unique amongst everybody's woodworking and dollhouse building and apparel sales. I think we're going to be a little bit different than everybody else in the sense that our booth doesn't look like everybody else's. All the booths out there, I will say this, they kind of flow into one another. Just because of the type of materials that they're selling. Very crafty kind of stuff, and we are not.
You know what I found really intriguing, though, is, if anything, we seem like the most commercial application out of everything, because the idea with the market is it is local people. It is local designs, and like a lot of people have put amazing effort into their booths and into their designs. But it really feels a lot more like your farmer's market you go to on a weekend and catch all these things. And much to my surprise, there was actually a couple of people who made desserts in there. So I have to admit, staying there 8 hours a day, it stays about 5 degrees cooler in there than outside. But that being said, I feel like that fridge with the liquor-infused chocolate mousse stuff is getting more and more tempting every time I walk past it.
Me too.
So yeah, you know, it's not just craft things. Like, come down and check out the whole thing. It's cool. You got to come for a walkthrough.
Come down and see if we get liquored.
And I'll tell you guys right now, once you hit like the city limits of Calgary, this place is like 10 minutes away. It's really not that far. So it's about the same distance as it would be to the Saskatoon farm. So there, I kid you not, the town slogan down here is, there are plenty of things to do in Okotoks. It's the stupidest slogan, but they're not wrong. There is some neat stuff down here. They're definitely not wrong. To check out.
All right, let's get into our first email, and then we're going to start answering some questions from our viewers today. The email today comes from Stephen Crevalis. He says, good day to you both, Richard and Brian. Now, Stephen has a SKR Mini V2 board with a TFT 35 display, but he desperately wants to be able to use his E3D V6 with higher temperature plastics like nylon and things like that, and polycarbonate, so things like that. Now, he needs to use a PT100 daughter board to get the PT100 thermistor to work properly, so he can get into those higher temperatures. He is also going to have to make some other changes in his E3D V6, like the block, if he wants to get into those higher temperatures. But he wants to know if he can actually use this board with the PT100 digital board to the SKR Mini. And Brian, you've pulled up some information in pre-show, so I'm going to turn it over to you.
Yeah, so actually, because I am feeding my webcam direct, I can't show you guys the page, but I will post it here in the chat for you to check out later. This is an instruction guide on how to set up a PT100 for a Voron, namely basically using it with Clipper. Now, that being said, the first few steps of wiring it to a 1.2 are there. So, since we have so few questions this week, I thought I'd give you guys a quick little education lesson on the PT100 because I don't have one, so I can go and fib all the information to you here. Anyways, a PT100 is not actually a thermistor. So, a thermistor by name is a thermal resistor, which means the resistance changes as the temperature changes. And through a couple of voltage dividers and setups, you can get that as an analog signal into your Arduino board, which in this case is all of our printer boards, which then is converted with a known range to say, hey, it's this temperature. Now, the downside of thermistors, and if you ever work in the industrial realm, there's also a variation called an RTD. These can operate up to about 870 degrees Celsius on the high end. On the low end, I think it's about minus 200 or so. However, the moment you approach about 400 degrees Celsius, the accuracy of it goes out the window. Now, if you're doing something like measuring an exhaust gas temperature of something that's, say, around 600 degrees Celsius, it's fine because it's allowed to modulate a bit. But when you're dealing with a hot end where you don't want it to modulate more than 1 to 2 degrees, that can throw it off. So then we jump into the next realm of devices, and these are called thermocouples. And what it is it's a coupling of two different metals that, when welded together, generate a micro, tiny little voltage. I think it's actually a millivolt there. And based off that, can be interpreted as a temperature. And the most common one out there is a Type K thermocouple, which goes up to, I believe it's around 1300, 1400 degrees Celsius. It's a real heck of a device. Now, the downside with it is because it generates a microscopic voltage that your main board cannot naturally read, you need to put in these daughter boards, which is basically what they call an amplifier board. So it takes that tiny little voltage and amplifies it up to a voltage range that your board can read. Usually 0 to 5 volts or 0 to 3.3. But it's designed, it also has some cleaning circuitry to help clean up the noise on the signal. There's a whole bunch of little things on these little boards. Now, you can potentially get ones that give you an analog out, but a lot of the ones I've been seeing are SPI based. And we'll talk about SPI in the future, but it's basically like a serial communication signal, but the next generation, similar to I2C. So whenever you have these, you're going to have more than just a TX, RX, and ground. There will be a couple different wires. And you have to find out how to interface that into your firmware. Luckily, a lot of the grunt work's been made in Marlin, where you just have to say, hey, I've got an SPI device on this I/O channel, and it's got this digital ID. And it's all just kind of built in. You just have to turn it on and say, yeah, I've got one of these, and Marlin knows to add all the back-end logic for that. So your only challenge is to find out which pins go where. And as I posted with my link there, it does cover how to hook up an SPI device to the E3 Mini 1.2, and the pin layouts should be very much similar to the 2.0 because Big Tree doesn't like to reorganize their boards a lot. So if you look in that area, and if you get your schematic, you can pull that information. But basically, without Marlin supporting this, it's another intelligent device that you have to backwards engineer. So, again, kudos to the Marlin team. Make sure you're running the latest firmware because they will have all the communication technology for this built in. And then you just have to wire up your clock signal, your MOSI, MISO as they call it, which is master out, slave in, master in, slave out, and the chip select pin, because that bus can be daisy chained with multiple devices. You can tie that directly to the high signal to say, hey, I'm always selecting this chip. So hopefully that'll cut down a few wires of yours, but it is it's a new thing to the 3D printing market. So I'm actually happy to see the ports are available on the SKR minis, but don't expect it to be available on every board. Notably, the 8-bit boards probably do not have the SPI bus exposed.
All right, so we have a new person here today, and that would be, I know I saw it. Where'd it go?
Ohio Inspire.
Ohio Inspire. Welcome, Ohio Inspire, for being here today. Good day. Mika Steve says, good day. Ohio Inspire also has a quick question, and I know there's some questions above his, so let's just quickly answer his. And he says, is there a way to stop filament oozing while BL is doing mesh leveling? No.
Yes. Oh, yes, there is.
Well,
just
yes
don't
and
heat
no.
up your hot end the whole way. I know a lot of people like to preheat and then do G28 and G29, but there is a
preheat.
way. Yeah, and I do too. Most of the time, it has to do with the fact that the filament's not retracted far enough and whatnot. However, that being said, the easiest workaround I've found is to go into your firmware, or sorry, not into your firmware, into your start G code in your slicer, and if you read into the start G code options, there's a way to take variables and put it further down. So what you're going to want to do is set your hot end to be about, let's say, around 150 degrees, 160 degrees Celsius. So it preheats to that point, then let it do its bed leveling, and then heat it up the remainder of the way. And that will at least help save you a little bit of time. But really the oozing is because you're fighting with gravity. So I don't have a hot end here to show you, but the only way you can prevent that from happening is to have an absolutely perfect suction where the filament cannot droop down because there's no air to pull in. So in theory, if you found a way to put an O-ring on, your Bowden connector at the top of your hot end, at the top of your extruder assembly, and right up against the filament where it's impossible to add any air or subtract any air from that tube, then it would be possible. But otherwise, you're going to deal with droop, so we got to solve it with temperature.
Matt Gerben. Okay, so there we go. My answer is no, because if you preheat, it's going to always dribble out. So,
yeah, it's pretty much a losing thing. Now, that being said, if you get into the realm of linear advance, and a good habit as well too is to add a small retraction at the end of your G code to say, move back E, let's say -2 or so, and then that way it's less likely that there will be a filament in the hot end to melt as it's heating up there. The downside is you have to make sure to have a good purge line on your first layer of the next print. Otherwise, if you go right to your model, it's going to be printing air for a few moments.
So Matt German says, can I take a Homa Odysseus Pro printer, take out the motherboard, and put it in a longer? Technically, yes, you can, but you are going to need the source code or the Marlin files in order to adjust them to work with the longer hardware that you're using. So yes, it can be done. Do I recommend taking a board, a name brand board out of one machine and putting it into another machine? Not really, no.
No, it's kind of a pain in the butt. You're better off to go buy like an E3 Mini 1.2, actually.
Yeah.
We keep on talking about this board. Here's a dip, for example. This thing's like $29 online, especially if you already have the steppers.
Yeah,
and just
so
as I was
cheap.
talking before about that SPI connection, that's this little guy right here. And I don't know if it's going to come into focus here. Maybe. Is that my finger
There
in
you
the
go,
way?
yeah.
You can see it's actually labeled SPI. So that's a great way of finding these things out. And that's why I like these Big Tree Tech boards, is they do a good job at exposing every single I/O pin available on this processor. And that's one thing that they, I think, really have set the ball rolling on that for everybody to do. And then, of course, we have the Octopus somewhere around here, which has 1 billion I/O and a half.
Then we have Devin Cashew, who is new as well. Welcome, Devin. And another one I haven't seen before. Sorry, you're not connected to the internet. Hello to you as well.
Sounds like my life.
Yeah. Some days.
Actually,
yeah.
funny story today. There's all this smoke, there's all this heat in Alberta, and then we got an emergency alert that phone service was lost on the eastern end of the province. Why did it happen? Someone chopped through the fiber line in a farm field. So, luckily enough, we were west enough and we weren't impacted. But yeah, fiber optics and the internet, it still doesn't take much to knock it out.
Damn, they finally got it on the farm. Now they broke it.
Run over it with a tractor, I did.
Actually, funny we talk about fiber optics. Growing up in the 90s, I remember on Vancouver Island, we had a major internet and telephone outage because some brilliant person at the government of BC at the time decided the best place to lay a fiber line to go and provide internet and phone services to the entire island was to run it along the concrete barrier of the highway at the very top. And we're talking like a conductor this big. Well, it took a couple years, but there was a car accident, and they drove right through that thing. And for anyone who knows about splicing fiber, imagine something of that size.
Yeah,
trying to
wow.
Splice that. Yeah, it was fun times.
I want to remind you that if you are not a member of our esteemed little members club, you'll notice that some of the people in our chat tonight have little icons beside their name, and their name is a different color. That's because they've joined our member list, and our members are these fine folks that you're seeing down at the bottom right now. I do have to update this list again, but the membership, basically it is as low as $2 a month. You get some benefits. Admittedly, over the summer, we're kind of lacking getting those benefits out, but that's because our scope is much bigger this summer. But as we move back into the fall and into winter, things are going to get back on a regular schedule because we won't be. I'm not driving in 40 below weather to a market for a weekend.
No, it's a bad
there.
drive out here, guys. I mean, for those of you who don't know, my vehicle got written off the other week there due to a car accident, and it happens a lot here in Calgary. Car accidents are not fun.
No,
so and that's
not.
in the summer. Now in the winter, yeah, you can really slide. Black ice is a real issue, and
Absolutely
maintaining cars here is very expensive.
So coming up on the show, we'll kind of give you while we're waiting for some more questions. Coming up on the show, Brian's going to be helping you or explaining to you how you get snot bubbles on your 3D
That was
printer.
not a snot bubble, man. That was in Alberta we call that prairie dogging. That's what that thing looked like.
Yeah.
Please come to see our Facebook page. You will see. I think I am crowned the champion of a blob that I was able to get off a hot end. And guess what? You're going to have video evidence of that.
Yep.
So stay tuned.
He's going to be telling you what went wrong, teaching you how to fix what went wrong, and get you back up and running. So that's coming out this weekend. Coming up after that, we are going to be finally getting this board from Aster into our Ender 3. That's going to be our first bit of kit that we do. And we're gonna show you how to install that board and find out exactly what it's all about, because I don't have any firmware for it. They never sent me any firmware. Apparently the firmware is already on it, so we'll go from there. Then we are going to do our review on the Auteur Laser Master 2 Pro, which we love so much. Jerry really likes the laser. But
Lasers.
frickin' laser beams, man.
You just watch. You just watch. I'm totally gonna 3D print that shark and put a laser on its head.
So so those are some of the things that are coming up in the weeks to come. You want to stay tuned for that. Please follow us on Facebook and follow the First Layer on Instagram, because I'm going to tell you, man, we're starting to post a lot of new stuff, and every once in a while, Brian and I may have a surprise for you from the hidden gem. So you might want to make sure you got notifications turned on both on your phone and on your computer so that you don't miss a thing that's coming out. We are trying to be as active as we can on Facebook and Instagram right now. Twitter a little bit. I'm not much of a tweeter. A tweeter?
I don't know. I think there's already a fair volume of people talking 3D printing on Twitter, and it's very hard to follow. So, I mean, if there's a demand there for it, we'll get into that. But the fact is we're already slammed with replying to emails and stuff. We just don't have time to respond to Twitter in real time. And as you know, with Twitter, is you have to be talking in real time to make it work. And that's why if you ever go back and read like any of Angus's threads or Joel's threads and all that, the whole discussion just is gone after an hour. It
sure does.
Usually the originator will not respond to something if it's over an hour old. So just a heads up with Twitter. But I don't know. I don't know how I feel about social media. I'm starting to get into it now because we've really learned how little exposure the First Layer has in Calgary.
Yeah. Boy, have we ever.
So we have to become hip and young again and, go on that. I don't know. Maybe we'll promote on Grindr or something.
Well, we could also do Tinder.
Yeah, but with Grindr, it's like can't find love. Maybe we can print you a new partner.
That's true.
Oh, that's hilarious.
That's true. That's true.
Oh man, sorry guys, we are very heat fatigued. It is like 33 Celsius in Calgary. We have a lot of smoke right now from the British Columbia fires blowing over, and it takes a lot out of you, honestly.
It does. It absolutely does.
Scott
Discord.
Warwick actually has a great question. Discord, yeah.
Yeah, Brian, do you want to talk about that? Because you're kind of in charge of the Discord.
Yeah, we have it, and we're just really bad at it. I won't lie to you. I've got about 50 discords because I participated in the Marlin one. This is showing you how far back I've been using it. There is we've got Canadian Maker Project, 3D Maker Kid. We've actually got two first layer ones, but an actual one we use. Country Club. Let's see what else we got in here. Clipper, Wiley's 3D from back in the day, and there still are people that come through and message once in a while. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually just going to jump out here and I'm going to post our Discord to the chat.
Okay.
And you're welcome to come over and join us. We do have some sections that are for YouTube members. That being said, we have to add everybody manually. So if you want to be in those special sections, just send us a message there.
You bet.
So just bear with me while I create an invite for you guys.
So while he's doing that, I'm going to answer Henry's question. He said, so did you ever get the SKR Mini E3 V2? No. They never sent me what they said they were going to send me, which is not surprising.
Wow.
We get a lot of these companies that want to send us stuff, and we say yes to it. We give them all the details, and they say, okay, it's on its way, and it never shows up. And they never follow up, and we try and follow up with them, and it is what it is. So
it is very difficult to follow up, yeah.
So yeah, it's at the end of the day, it is what it is, and we are with everything that we've got going right now. Quite frankly, doing that build, I've actually gotten rid of my CR-10 that I had here, my CR-10S, and because I'm making room for my Vorons. I have one Voron now, and I will be building another Voron as we go into winter. Brian is going to be working on his very soon. And the next time we do the Voron, next time we start a build from scratch, we're going to wait till all of the parts are in.
Yep.
And then we are going to start producing those videos step by step for you guys. With the chaotic nature of how everything came in for the Voron that I built, we just got the plexiglass for it this week to do the final, enclosure.
That's why we can't even do part 2 yet, right? Is because we haven't even really energized the machine.
No,
so,
it's got firmware installed, but I do have to do some magic in the firmware to get everything talking to one another. So,
absolutely.
And this weekend, for those of you guys that don't know, I'm going to be on DeWitt 3D's channel. Live in person. I will be with my good buddy Tim, and we are going to be building his CR-30. That's going to be a wonderful thing to do. I can't wait to do that. I've been chomping at the bit to try and set a date for that with Tim, and I know he's had it, and I know he wants to get it built. And that is the conveyor version of a CR machine.
Yeah, it's Naomi Woo's print mill, I think is the official or unofficial name they've given it. She's all over the box too, so it's a neat concept, and we did look at building one previously. We were never offered a review unit, so we were looking into the kinematics of it, and frankly, we were just too busy. It's a cool concept, but it does have a very specific application.
It does.
So once we get through our Vorons, maybe we'll look into the technology in, but unfortunately, that's been on the back burner. Or put on the back burner for quite a while here.
Scott's got a great question here. He says, does anyone sell Vorons already built? That's probably a pie-in-the-sky idea. Now, according to my information that I've gotten from the Voron Discord and some of the people in the community, Voron is not for sale. As a printer, as a kit, it is not for sale by Voron Design. Now, because it is completely open source, there are companies that in China that are putting together parts from different sources to make Voron kits. Now, what they don't include in that is the 3D printed parts, which are essential to building a Voron 3D printer. Now, if you don't have access to a printer that can print ABS, then you are going to have to probably find somebody that can do it for you, or you can buy 3D printed parts off of many different places like AliExpress. I think they've got them on Banggood now. They've got them on GearBest. So there's a lot of different places that you can actually buy the parts. Now, the quality of the kits that are coming out of China can be hit and miss on the parts that are in there. My personal recommendation is, if you're going to build a Voron, and if you haven't seen Tom's I Love My Voron 3D printer video, then I would highly suggest you go and check it out. Now, Tom did a few things differently. He put in a duet board as well as duet expander, and he's done some upgrades to it that you wouldn't normally do on your first build. But being that Tom has that experience, it was fairly easy for him to do. Now,
but if you look back too, it also took Tom 8 hours across live streams, and I know he doesn't twiddle around too much, so it is a very in-depth build, and that's kind of why we don't want to go into every single step of this. It's about a 50-page manual. What we really want to show you guys is the end result after all of that effort. Can you get a good print quality? And if you saw Tom's latest video, he is now calling it his new favorite printer. So just and if you want to get into this space of trying a Voron and don't feel like dropping as much money, they have the Voron Zero, and the kits are, I'm kind of finding them coming at about $500 Canadian plus a bit of shipping. So
too tiny.
It's a very tiny machine. But that being said, if you want to print and just see how the Voron works, and then think about scaling outwards, that's not a bad little machine. I've actually been thinking about getting one myself because it looks kind of fun.
Yeah, they come in at under $1,000 Canadian all in, with the parts and the printed parts as well. So my recommendation is, though, source out the parts that are recommended in the build of materials. They have a sourcing guide. Use it. It is very good. It is very comprehensive, and it will take you. And if you use those, you are also going to be helping the Voron design team to come up with new Vorons and upgrades to designs that are already currently out there. So that's something I would highly recommend. Now we've got,
and the other thing is, just real quickly, notably Misumi and Gates. I don't want you guys going cheap on those products, because the Misumi extrusion, as Richard has found, is stellar. And I built my own out of the, I don't want to call them Chinese, but the aftermarket lower grade aluminum extrusion. And I just got a Misumi kit this past week of building a cube that's like 580 by 580 by 800. And the rigidity of that, just from their brackets on the side versus what I was able to get with the cheap aftermarket aluminum, it's a completely different level of rigidity. So I just want you guys to keep that in mind. Unfortunately, I realized Misumi is back ordered till September right now for 2020, probably because of Voron kits. But there are some other neat things in their site, and I'm hoping to show you that soon, of what other options they have in there. At the end of the day, I built this cube for, I think it came in at around $240 Canadian, so not bad overall.
Yeah, I can't tell you how happy I am with the Misumi quality. They are anodized aluminum, black anodized aluminum, and I haven't scratched it yet. And I've had it turned upside down and right side and all over the place. But this coming week, I'm going to finalize everything, and I'm going to do my first test print, which I will film for you guys and probably put up either on the channel as a short, or we'll put it up over on Facebook. Now, there's some questions coming in. Jerry, what do you got for us? Oh, she's reading a book.
No, I'm not.
Devin Cashew says, I'm having issues on my MKS Robin Light version 1.1. What type of issues are you having, Devin?
I found his question here. So the issue is that his EEPROM, when he saves it, it's saving to the SD card, even though he has EEPROM defined. So he was asking about uploading the boot or upgrading the bootloader, if that would work. No, it will not.
No.
Simply put, the EEPROM is, unless it's allocated in a very special bootloader for that chip, is sometimes actually a discrete chip on the outside. And when a board doesn't come with that kind of memory area to work with, you have to rely on other means. And so the Marlin source code added an option for a emulated EEPROM basically to exist on the SD card. And I believe when we talked about the E3 Mini 2. Or no, it was the 1.1 or 1.0. It actually didn't come with an EEPROM chip. And then later on, they added one. I'm going to see if I can see one on here. I think it's... No, that's the little... I can't see it, at least on this dip here, and I might be mistaken. It might be built into the chip. Either way, it has to go on the SD card, because otherwise your only option is it reflashing the settings every boot. Now, my question is what is your concern with saving it to the SD? Because it's perfectly fine to live on the SD, and you'll never go near enough write cycles on that chip to ever do any damage before you end up buying something newer or bigger. So I would say not to worry about it unless you're having a very specific issue with it.
Let's go on to IDK Airsoft's question. Yeah. Keep things moving along here. He says, sometimes I have problems with my PLA filament that will not stick to my print bed. Now, there's a couple reasons why that happens. First of all, your print bed is not hot enough. Secondly, you may have an offset issue where your head's either just a little too high or just a little too close, and then it starts dragging everything all over the place. Without a little bit more context, those are what I would look at first and foremost. First, look at your offset. Secondly, look at your bed temp. Check the material that you're doing. Again, I've said this a million times. Do yourself one of these, which is a temp tower. This is vitally important to every print that you, or every type of filament that you're going to use, whether it's from the same manufacturer or not. I do a temp tower for every color that I have, and it doesn't matter. Like we use exclusively now, for the most part, Matter 3D filament. We love that filament. It works great. They're now starting to expand their colors. You're going to see Matter 3D filament available from a lot more people online. We have a limited amount available to our customers here locally in Airdrie, Okotoks, and Calgary. So if anybody is in those areas and would like to get some of that, we do have some in stock. We have some black, white, and red in stock right now, PLA. So that might be something to take a look at. Next question, Jerry. Okay, this is from Devin Cashew again. I'm having getting the EEPROM board. We just actually talked about this.
Yeah, he repeated the question. They said the MKS does have an EEPROM built into the chip, as it did work before, but it hasn't worked since I updated the firmware. Thanks for your thoughts, as I was on the fence about trying to upload it. Yeah, don't worry too much about it. It's not ideal, because if you lose the power on your board and it writes some corrupt data to there, it get a little messed up. That being said, though, I would take a look. I don't have a Robin, unfortunately, just to see the implementation of it. It sounds to me like they might have moved over to an SD one, maybe because the EEPROM is unreliable. I would do some research just specifically on that board and just see what pops up, and just see if someone has come with a workaround or said, screw it.
Hey, I want to take time to give a shout out to Ben Brady, who joined us this evening. And who else do I want to talk about here? Brian Vines. He says, hi, the first layer. How are you doing this fine evening? We are doing fine. We're very tired. We're very exhausted.
Very tired, and, very overheated.
Yeah. And I won't be here tomorrow night. I'll be traveling to Okotoks tomorrow night, so Brian and I can get an early start to putting up our new slat wall, which I spent a day and a half building. Hey guys, so this show is weekly. Yes, Ohio Inspire, this show is weekly through the summer.
Kind of a hiccup over the past few weeks. So
through the summer, we're on Thursday nights at 7 p.m. Mountain Standard Time through the summer, and then in the fall we're going to go back to our Sunday afternoon at noon Mountain Standard Time, our regular time slot. So we're just because Sundays we're just so busy out at the market. And if I get a phone call from somebody, it's very distracting, because people look at us. Here's the funny thing. People look at us like we're a couple of aliens in that place, because they don't really understand what we do. And then you just kind of gotta grab them by the lower part of the shirt and say, hey, just come on over. We'll tell you what we do and we'll explain it to you. So once we explain it, we get all kinds of wide eyes and, wow, you can do that. Wow, you can make that. And that's been pretty successful for us so far. Smash that like button, Mika Steve says. Absolutely smash that like button if you haven't already this evening. Also, leave us a comment. Tell us what you're doing this summer down in the comment section after the video ends today. And because we would love to see what you guys are doing, what you're making. If you're a member over on Facebook, go post your pictures. Please post your pictures. Nobody's posting pictures right now. It's making me very sad.
I'm posting lots of blob photos because I mistook a roll of ABS for PLA. It happens. I only clogged 4 printers trying that roll.
Okay, Scott
Don't
Warwick.
rip off the labels, guys.
There you go. Scott Warwick is saying, I think both of you Jane experience with Mingda 3D Pro. I actually have a Mingda Rock 3 Pro, or not the Rock 3 Pro, just the Rock 3. I have one I rarely use due to poor part cooling. Do you guys have or know of a printable part cooling upgrade? There is one on Thingiverse. Please go check it out. That will work very well on that machine. That's what I would direct you to, Scott. Just look up part cooling for the Rock 3. It's the same.
Yeah, I'm just searching up Mingda Rock 3 and, with Thingiverse's painful slow site.
Yeah.
Maybe go to Yagi and find it.
Yeah. What's next, Jerry?
Yeah, it's nothing exciting on Thingiverse I found.
Jerry's coming up with another one. Oh, from Rick Landon. Hey, Rick, we haven't seen you in a while. How to find BMG clone drive gear that is not plastic.
Most of the one on AliExpress I found were metal ones.
Yeah, there's some on AliExpress.
Yeah, but most of I see they are mostly plastic now, which makes sense. It is
they're nylon. They're not ABS though. I believe they're made from nylon.
Now that being said, look up all metal BMG extruder. I know Two Trees here makes one. You just have to know if you are right or left for your hot end. And yeah, they come in. I think what is it? Anodized black and silver. And I've got actually. I don't think I have it out anymore. I've got one of the red ones over here. I won't lie to you guys, the gears don't feel that good on those. So that's my big caveat. I would actually still say go back to the main actual product, and I think you'll have a better time.
All right, this is from Hawks. I hope I said that right. Once a week, I would post what I printed through the week, but ran out of cool things to print.
For what it's worth,
Here's part 2.
I can kind of understand that because, before we get to part 2, I've been browsing Thingiverse a lot lately, and by the time you get to the 3rd page, it starts looping the 1st page, even though it says you're going further in. So I feel you for that.
He says, I miss those videos you did. We loved making videos, and we are getting back to it. We're just now getting our schedules aligned again. Brian is now working from his office more often. He's not on the road traveling or working from home, so we can get together a little bit more. So that helps us in being able to put content together and deciding what content we want to put out over the summer. This year, here's the thing, is because we've got the market, this year we don't have a big summer project, which I'm kind of sad about because I really wanted to do a summer project this year, but the market to us right now is the next stepping stone for us. ShopTheFirstLayer.com will be showing more parts as we move forward. You'll see a lot more inventory coming in over the fall. You're also going to see a lot more filament on there from Matter 3D. We will not be carrying anybody else's filament on that site, but again, that is going to be for local clients only.
Shipping is terrible here right now.
Yes, absolutely. The shipping is god-awful. All right, so from Mike Bush, he says, I have a Voxlap Aquila and was wondering if you know what should be on average temp on stepper motors should run. Thanks. If your stepper motors are overheating, that means your VREF voltage is way too high.
Super chat.
Super chat.
So we got a super chat from Sausage trying to get the ball rolling. Come on, everyone. These guys are worth it. Thank you very much, Sausage. I do so much appreciate your support and everybody's support. Our members, people who use the super chat, we really love it. And I am going to fix that super chat button, I promise.
I mean, I can keep subbing in for the next 5 years.
Jerry's sexier.
So, Mike, if you can... Super chat. Oh, yeah.
Oh, my God.
This is what happens when it is stupidly hot and we are doing the show late in the evening where it's even warmer.
And we haven't even started drinking yet.
And we had pie and ice cream for supper.
Oh, I hate you so much.
Lemon meringue pie.
Just for fun, you guys, my summer project is I'm going to try and shed a few pounds again. So I'm back on keto. We'll see how that works this time around.
I'm not, but
no.
I'm 56 years old, so I eat whatever the hell I want.
Yeah, that's fair. So in regards to the motor current, because that's what we're actually going to be talking about when we talk about controlling motors, is we control the motor current, where it goes to the coils, and it's basically a holding current. So if you set it too high, they get too warm, and your steps are not very clean, especially with the complex micro steps. So for most people, we suggest you start at about 650 on your settings menu for each of the X, Y, and extruder, and then set your Z to around 800 or 0.8. Now, most times with like CR10s and stuff, I'd say bring them all up to around 800 and then back off the extruder. Simply, if it's too low, your motors will skip, and if it's too high, they may make noise or they may get really hot. It's not out of the blue to see them, if you were to read the temperature, about 55 to 60 degrees Celsius, but any hotter than that, and it's just not good for the steppers.
Yeah, exactly. All right, so there is Mike Landon says white plastic gear stripped, labeled as dual drive gear.
Yeah, those, the plastic ones, I know exactly which ones you're talking about.
Yeah, me too.
Compared to the all-metal ones, actually, the gears are metal and all that, but they actually grind a lot. The reason people use nylon is because nylon has a flexibility to it, and sometimes that's better with mechanical gears that are not lubricated. Yeah. So, for instance, if you go and buy a KitchenAid mixer, the cheaper ones, the consumer-grade ones that you get everywhere except for basically Costco, have nylon gears in them, and a lot of people work through that gear because they're a very heavy user. So when you go up to the next grade, to the professional series, they have all metal gears that have lubrication in them and all that. But over time, those can also shear off each other if you don't keep them lubricated. So simply put, nylon removes the requirement for lubrication. But if it has a lot of tension built up in there, yes, you can grind right through it.
Absolutely. Hawk says shipping from Canada to the States is insane. It is. It's stupidly insane.
Brian, actually... We've been leveraging different things to bring in stuff from the U.S., and if that's something you're interested in, send us a message, and I can give you the resources that we use to, at least if you're doing regular cross-border shipping both directions, it's a lot cheaper.
Henry Stofferhan wants to know what you're printing tonight, Brian.
Well, Jess has a gauntlet going behind me, and it's kind of probably cut off on the camera there. We had a lot of stringing early on and spaghetti, so we're like, we'll just let it keep going, take the other pieces. And then behind me, I'm working on a customer project that, unfortunately, I'm not allowed to talk much about. Otherwise, I would show you. But the outer walls are 4 millimeters thick, 4 or 5 mils. Yeah, so this thing is like a 600-gram bowling ball.
Holy Christmas. 3D Printing Canada says, how about a question about lasers? What's your opinion on the glasses?
3D Printing Canada? No, it's our friend DeWitt. Uh-oh.
Oh, yes, our friend DeWitt.
Richard's got heat stroke.
I forgot DeWitt 3D Printing 3D Canada.
Wow.
DeWitt. Yeah, Tim. Hi, Tim.
Hey, Tim.
What's your opinion on the glasses that come with the Auteur? Would you recommend buying better ones? Absolutely, I would. The ones that come with it will work. They're uncomfortable. I'm a prescription glass wearer, and they are frickin' uncomfortable if I have to put them over these ones. And they're very rigid. I'm not a big fan of them. So Yes, I would recommend that you get some better quality ones, because those are like the cheapies that you can find anywhere for about $5 or $10. But
Yeah,
yes, I would definitely go with ones
and
that are better quality.
the expensive stuff is actually not that expensive, to be honest with you. Go to your suppliers. Go to Ackland's Granger. Go to really any store that deals with welders and things like that. Because what you need... Princess Auto? No.
No.
Princess Auto, I would put it akin to going to the dollar store or going to like Bianca Amore's liquidation warehouse.
Yeah.
If you're buying safety glasses from those places, it's for show. Okay, and even though they have the spec stamp that's, I think, Z87 plus is the CSA code for like firearms and stuff like that. No, a lot of them wouldn't meet it. And the fact is, unlike impact resistance, this you need a very specific filtering or you will do irreparable damage to your eyes before you even know it. That's the best kind of way of putting it. You have to be really, really, really careful. So, yeah, go to the reputable places, buy the good quality stuff. You dropped $500 on a laser, I think $30 or $40 for a set of comfy goggles is worth it.
Yeah, I definitely agree. Steve Carvallis says, any help connecting the PT100 to an SKR Mini E3? We actually answered your question earlier, Steve, but you weren't here, so shame on you for being late.
You just roll it back and listen to us ramble about now.
Yeah,
An hour or so.
Brian went into some details about it, and there are some links here in the chat that will help you with that issue. We have not connected one yet. But there is a way to do it, and it is right there. There are the pins right there. Right there.
Oh, yeah. We both have DIP 1.1s, but it will be labeled as SPI. So, yeah. If you are still having challenges, just email us with the exact model number of the amplifier board you bought, and I can probably quickly draft something together for you.
I'm using the E3D... PT100 amplifier board. Yeah, okay. So he's using the proper amplifier board.
Yeah, then they should have instructions. They're usually pretty good. I'm just going to quickly check on their website for you here because we do have a couple of minutes here. Okay, PT100. Oh, this one's really easy then. Sorry, I went into a ramble about SPI, and this one only has 3 wires out.
Yeah.
Documentation page. I believe. Let's see here. Signal to a spare analog input pin on your board. So basically it just has power, ground, and signal return. Yep. In theory, you probably could use your thermistor input, but basically any ADC pin on your board, we just have to figure out what all the analog pins are on this E3 Mini.
Yep, that's it. So we will... Steve, if we can this weekend, we'll do a little bit more research on your letter that you sent, and we'll probably get an email out to you early next week, okay, with some links that will probably help you. Anyone ever used a Skadoodle with Octoprint? Not me.
Solid Doodle. I read it as Solid Noodle. I'm like, I make
Skadoodle.
solid noodles every week. It's called my spaghetti prints.
I've had those.
Let's look up this Solid Doodle thing. I'm sorry. This is Octoprint world is changing really fast on me.
It is.
I just started getting Octoprint running again on some of my old machines. However, I'm hearing a lot about this Fluid OS now, and I want to take a look into that.
Yeah, me too.
In the next little bit. It seems like they're cleaning things up. So, what on earth is the Solid Doodle press? Soliprint. I'm sorry, I haven't heard anything about this stuff.
Me either.
What the heck is Solidoodle?
Sausage is in another part of the world. You're very welcome, Stephen.
Oh, was that a printer?
Yes.
Oh, that's why. Because if you go to their website, it just says, Solidoodle has ceased operations. To read the full announcement, visit the blog. 2016, they shut down.
Oh.
So, anyways... really, any printer should work fine with Octoprint. All you have to do is plug in the USB cable, and it should pop up as a serial port. If it doesn't have a USB port, or it doesn't pop up within Octoprint, then it's pretty much possible that they did not enable that port for serial commands.
Ben Brady is saying fluids the front end for Clipper. Yes.
Yeah, yeah. It's just a
much-
matter. I've been so focused on working with Clipper right now that I haven't looked at all into blending it with anything else. But just so you guys know, and this is something we're going to talk about when we get to Clipper and going through all of it. It's a very verbose setup, but once you have it set up, it's lovely. Clipper is just an application at the end of the day, and it creates a virtual serial port, does all the math on the computer, and then sends it out to the printer. So Octoprint is usually the go-to right now because most people will set up Clipper and Octoprint on a Raspberry Pi, and they just integrate beautifully together. Now, Fluid, again, not a lot of people have been talking about it until about the past month or so, is a different way to connect to that Clipper runtime. So it replaces Octoprint. But we're gonna kind of look. I've got to look more into it to see about what benefits it has for people, and also not step on everyone's feet about going through all this. So right now we're focusing still on Octoprint because that's what the majority of people will be comfortable working with.
Yeah, I agree. Rick, you are very welcome as always. As to everybody for your questions tonight, thank you for your questions. We do appreciate them. Get your questions ready again for next Thursday when we are back here at 7 p.m. We are almost out of time tonight. Can two or more printers on that line? On Octoprint, you can do more than two printers. I know that for a fact. You just have
Technically,
to
what it is you're running multiple sessions
instances,
of Octoprint.
yeah.
At least if you want to print them all at the same time, you can set up, and have one Pi and say, okay, I'm doing this printer, and then flip it over. But you cannot do it concurrently unless you have it set up. And I think our friend Chris Riley at Chris's Basement did a video where I think he put either 4 or 8 printers on a Raspberry Pi. I can't recall. It just comes down to memory, right? So now that these Raspberry Pis are getting more and more powerful, yes, we can run more and more concurrent applications.
You bet. So what we got coming up for you guys this week, Brian's got a video coming out this Saturday for everybody. Hopefully it'll get released on Friday for our members. If not, we
it's scary that tomorrow's Friday.
Yeah, because tomorrow's Friday.
So I'm going to apologize in advance because I'm shooting it tonight, guys. So if anything goes wrong or it gets too hot here, I may be a little bit delayed. So I'm promising Saturday morning for everybody, but members, you got to make sure to have that notification bell known. That way you know when that video actually comes out for you guys.
You bet. So we've got that coming up. Then we've got the video after that will be the Aster board in the Ender 3, and then we're going to do our full review on the Ortour Laser Master 2 Pro. So you'll see that. And
Lasers.
and then we're going to get back into some more teaching. We've got a lot of teaching to do with new things. We're going to talk about Clipper in the future. We're going to talk about how to make things work, not just on a Voron, but on other printers as well. So if you wanted to add a Raspberry Pi and use Clipper, which seems to be the flavor right now. I talked about earlier in the year that there had been no real advancements in 3D printing. Now I have to eat my words because Clipper and Failsafe or whatever the other one is, Fishbait, I can't remember what it's called, but
Sailfish?
Sailfish, that might be it.
No, that might be a Linux OS.
Yeah, that might be
all these names, guys. So
we're pretty burnt out. So what I would say to you guys is that at the end of everything is we're going to get back into teaching. For those people that are local here to Calgary and area, we are negotiating right now with a retailer here in Calgary to start offering our build and learns again. For those people that are interested to get into 3D printing or just want to learn something a little bit deeper about that. So with that said, thank you all for joining us this evening. I want to thank Brian for joining me this evening as well. Jerry,
thanks,
over
Richard.
on our messages today, doing a great job. Go ahead, honey.
Have you guys ever noticed that?
Thank you.
Have you guys ever noticed that when Richard does his closing, he kind of speeds up like Clive Anderson used to on Whose Line when he feels like he's right down to the clock? He's like, oh, thank you. Good night.
And thank you for a
fatigue.
really big show.
He just wants
Oh,
to get into
geez.
the air-conditioned room.
Yes.
Yeah, that's true. And this is the least air-conditioned room. I think right now I've got it down to 27. But the rest of the house is probably like 16 degrees right now.
Yeah, I'm going to go in the bedroom as soon as I start another print. With that
Nice.
said, you guys have yourselves a great evening. We'll see you again for a new episode on Saturday, and we'll see you here right back live on Thursday night at 7 p.m. Till then, remember that the first layer is...
Always your foundation to a great print.
Good night, everybody.
Ah, Jerry, your timing was off. Ah,
We have to work on that.
one day.
Okay, we're out.